Heyo, this is your boy Slizwaq from GHT, and once again, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. Oh, hold on. Oh, uh, okay, hold on. Let me do something. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready. I was getting a little feedback in my headset there. So, once again, my name is Slizwaq from GHST. Today, we're going to be talking about some of the best ways to store your weed, the do's, the don'ts, the yes, the no's, the hems, the ha's, the where, the whys. We got it all. Not all of it, but most of it. One thing I'd like you to consider is if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube, go ahead and click that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. It'll get you, you'll be able to keep track of when we post new stuff, when we go live, and when we have different giveaways. So check that out. Today, oh, I wanted you guys to give a shout out. Roachel T, she's not feeling well today. So if you guys could send her some love, she'd greatly appreciate that. So, yeah. One thing I want you guys to do, though, one thing I want you to do is I want you to think about this. The whole time we're talking about this, what is the weirdest thing that you have ever used to remoisturize your weed? What's the weirdest thing? I hear people talking about orange peels, freaking tortillas. I hear people talking about lettuce, wet paper towels. I'm not going to say that it doesn't work, okay? Because I've used some pretty weird stuff to remoisturize weed myself. But one thing I can assure you is it's probably not the best way to do it. In a pinch, it'll work. But hey, it's strictly up to you. Just so you know, we're going to be smoking out of our Enterprise today, and it's actually clean. I hope you guys can see that. It's actually clean. So, yeah. Shout out to my man Felipe. What's up? What's up? Glad you could make it. I appreciate the support. Dude, what you smoking on? We're smoking on some ice cream cake. We're smoking on some ice cream cake. Supposed to be running at 29.2% THC. We're going to freaking see what it's all about. I got to tell you, I was freaking thinking about today's episode, and you know what? As it gets closer, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Apple slices. I've seen apple slices used before. Hell yeah. And that's the thing. I'm not here to talk shit about how anybody's doing anything. It's really, once you know kind of the science behind storing weed, it's no problem. You can use whatever. So, yeah. It's one of those things where it's kind of like working on a car. There's a bunch of different ways to get the job done. There is. Man, let me freaking take a little smoke break. Before we do that, let me update you guys on what we had happen today. We filmed some garden updates today, and they should be uploaded tomorrow. We've got clones going on. Okay, smoking nuking. Okay. We've got our clones going on. Out of 24 clones, we lost approximately, I think, three. Um, yeah, no, actually one. I pulled. Oh, there's going to be two because it's wilty. I pulled one out today that was all wilted up, and we actually didn't fill it up. I think we had 22 clones, I believe. So yeah, but man, I tell you, now that everybody is They're growing their weed. Their garden's doing great. One of the questions that I get in my inbox all the time, and one of the questions that I get really throughout the year, but it's no more important than in the upcoming Croptober as everybody prepares their crops. And the thing is, what's the best way to store my weed? And when I say to store it, people always say, I grew this sticky icky fill in the blank kush. It's great. I just want to make sure that we have some, 6 months from now. And I want it to taste as fresh. So what I thought is, why not have a little, do a little podcast on it? Why not? Give the people some knowledge. Let them see what's going on. Yeah, why not? I'm digging it. And here's the thing. There's nothing that pisses me off more than when you go to the dispensary, you show them your ID, you want that bomb diggity with the 99% THC, so you pay for your flower, you get it, and you get home, and surprise, surprise, it's drier than shit. It's crumbling in your hands. It is what they say it is, but when they put it in that prepackaged container or when they stored it wrong, they ruined it for you. They ruined it. It's ruined. Well, it's not ruined. There's ways to freaking remoisturize it if it's not past a certain point, but they didn't do you any favors. You know what I'm saying? It's there's a couple different things that I use, a couple different steps that I use to make sure that freaking my weed's stored for the long term. And if you're tuning into this podcast and you want to know about weed storage, we got you. Tune in. We'll take you through a couple of different steps that we use, and we'll tell you exactly what to do to store your weed. But before we get into that, I want you guys to give me your opinion. I'm testing out. I'm actually running another camera alongside here, and I want you guys to drop it in the comments. Which picture is better? Hold on, I'm going to go and change. Do you guys think that's a better picture? Or I'm not sure. I'm kind of biased. It's got some purpling in it a little bit. It's kind of purpley a little bit, as far as I'm concerned. But I think it's more vivid, but I'm not sure. I've got to make some adjustments as far as camera wise. But hopefully, if you stay tuned, that's what's coming up in the future. But here we are back to regular me. First things first. Make it dark. And what I mean is, if possible. Now, don't get me wrong. Number one, make it dark. Now, everybody knows these jars. I stored in these jars. Matter of fact, this is stored improperly. I was messing around with some weed earlier, and this is stored improperly. But everybody uses these clear jars. I'm not saying you have to get the dark jars because they're about $1, $2 more. But what I am saying, one of the good things you can do is whenever you fill up your jar, put it in a cabinet or a cupboard or someplace that's where it's dark, simply because light degrades trichomes. Light degrades trichomes. And if you can use it, even better if you have containers like this, what I've seen people do is wrap them with foil. I've seen people spray paint them black, but that's not really necessary if you can just put it somewhere that's dark. Super easy. We're not trying to make it all complicated. Now, and I got to tell you, and if you're familiar with THC, you know that light is the enemy of trichomes. Whoo, man. This ice cream cake, it's a fucking winner. I got to tell you that. It is an absolute freaking winner. Oh man, it's hot here under these lights. But make it freaking put it in a place that's dark, freaking cool, freaking steady temperature, because light and heat, that heat difference is gonna freaking degrade your THC. The the number two thing we want to talk about when it comes to storing your weed is the proper amount of airspace. See this here? This is not the proper amount of airspace. Normally you want to put as much weed in a container without crushing it as you can. Because what's going to happen is the less air that's in there, the longer it will take for it to degrade as well. You want to make sure that container's airtight. And in the comments, I'm sure you probably heard me talk about one of the things, glasses versus plastic. And I'm going to tell you why glass wins every time. Glass is non-porous. And when I say it's non-porous, it doesn't allow air to pass through it. Ziploc bags, plastic containers, normally, somehow or another, will let air freaking pass through. And that's kind of what you put in a plastic container. And those hard plastic containers that they give you at the dispensary, most of the time, those hard plastic containers actually sap moisture out of your weed. They're not really made for long-term storage. If you leave your exactly, humidifiers are great. Humidifiers are awesome. I got to tell you, what I use is I use these little Bovitas, and they're fucking great. They come in a bunch of different sizes. Hell yeah. Those tobacco containers, those tobacco containers are I'd say they're like the third best thing. Because yeah, there's a company that called Bovita that makes these packs that are actually designed for that purpose. Now, where I'm at, they sell these for $1 a pack. And these are specifically designed to keep your plant matter moisturized and at the right humidity. Because the things that degrade your weed over time are air, light, moisture, freaking improper humidity, and freaking not being in an airtight container. So there's a couple different things, and I'm not sure if I named those in the right order. But yeah, the proper amount of airspace in airtight containers. And that's one of the reasons why most people use these canning jars, is because if you look in the top of them, they've got that rubber seal. And what that does is that rubber seal allows you to make that glass container airtight. And I even use smaller containers. It doesn't have to be a canning container. This actually happens to be one of the super tiny canning jars. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. This happens to be one of the super tiny canning jars. All my labels are on it. But it's still airtight. And what I like to do is I like to keep my weed in it because it keeps it better for longer. As soon as I get home most of the time, what I'll do is I'll open that plastic container, dump it into a glass container, and put a Bovita pack in there just to make sure that it stays moisturized. Because I don't know about you. But if you're smoking some dry ass weed, if you're smoking some dry ass weed, it burns up like that. It seems like an eighth only takes you probably, I don't know, maybe freaking a couple of hours to smoke. And as the Spanish people say, That's what I call no bueno. It's not that you're getting less weed, um, but it's because it's dry. It burns so fast, it causes it to be harsher than it actually is. The thing that gives your weed a lot of the flavors is the moisture, and that moisture in your plants is also laden with terpenes, so they give it that flavor. When all that moisture leaves, your weed burns so hot that you don't get to taste any of those flavors, and it sucks, because one of the reasons that you paid for that top shelf weed is so you can get all the fucking flavors. And if you didn't want no flavors, you probably would have just bought some fucking backyard boogie. But you wasn't feeling that. It's the weekend, it's your anniversary, and you trying to party. So, but yeah, it's and this is, and I gotta tell you, one of the things that just drives me nuts, it just steering wheel on your crotch, okay, is you go to a dispensary. They're all set up. They're selling weed. They have a bunch of people behind the counter. They're talking about weed. They're telling you about the terpenes and the flavonoids, the delta 9s and the THC, this and that and the other. And they hand you some weed that's drier than fucking two dicks rubbing together. And it's not good. It's not good. You lose all of that stuff that you actually freaking were depending on, and all of the reasons why you were freaking going for those flavors. Let me take a little smoke break here. Whew, man. Oh man. I got to tell you, this ice cream cake that I'm smoking here, it is some of the smoothest stuff. And here's the reality of it. Even when I got it home, even when I got it home, it was a little bit dry. And now that it's been sitting in a container for a few days, there's no doubt it's fucking remoisturized. Hold on, let me wipe this face. There's no doubt it tastes better now than when I first got it. Let's talk about the next thing. But before we talk about the next thing, I want to show you guys, I want to get you guys' opinion on one of our new designs. We have a new design in the shop. Bam. It's one of our freaking signature designs that we just put out. It just came out. I don't think you can even see it in the store yet because it finally got approved. And yeah, it's our These Birches t-shirt. It's just check it out. Freaking, I'll give you a full screen of it. Bam. Freaking hit up our merch store and you can get that. Matter of fact, I'll change the banner at the bottom. Let's see here. There we go. And let me make sure that link works. No, it doesn't. So I've been having some problems with the links that they've been making. And let me see here. I got to get you guys a good link. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Because I know I was having some problems with the links earlier. There we go. Now there it is. It's in there. That's our fucking link to get your merch and check out our shirt. We've got stickers in there. We've got mugs in there. We've got a bunch of different shit in there. But next thing we're going to talk about is the humidity. The humidity. You ever wonder why if you put an apple, piece of lettuce, an orange peel, a tortilla, or whatever, it never takes the same amount of time. And if you leave it in there too long, it could turn, your weed could turn moldy. After a while, you leave it in there too long and take it out, your weed gets too much moisture in it, and you see your glass jar starts fogging up. Not great. Not great. So one of the reasons why I like to use these Boveda packs is simply because I don't have to worry about how long I leave them in there. The experts say, not me, but the experts say that between 60 and 63% humidity is the ideal moisture level for weed, for it not to get moldy and for it to stay fresh. Yeah. One of the ways that you can keep that humidity stable is not putting it in a place where it's going to get super hot or super cold, because that's actually going to change the humidity the humidity in the atmosphere of your jar. It's going to change it. And the reason why you don't need to know the number, but the reason why it's important to know about humidity is because too much humidity, your weed's going to get moldy. You might put something in there, you take it out, your weed's fine, but as your weed stays in that container, you notice moisture getting on the inside of it. That's too much moisture. But the problem is, if you don't remoisturize it, freaking it's going to be all brittle. Too much moisture, mold grows. Too little moisture, your weed's all brittle and it burns like a fucking wildfire. But keeping it between that 60 and 63% that's the ideal storage temp to make sure that you maintain all of those terpenes, maintain all of that flavor. So that first bud that you smoked after it was cured, that first bud is just as good as the bud you smoked 12 months later. That's all it is. And like I said, if you've ever had weed that freaking had too much, if you've ever had some weed that has too much humidity in it and it's got some mold in it, you'll know, because thank you, Stream Elements. Thank you for letting people know that I'm freaking going live. But if you've ever had some weed that freaking was too moist, or if you've ever tried to smoke weed before it was freaking all the way dried out, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a matter of, hey, this is my preference. These scientists have told us, hey, 62 to 63%, or 60 to 63%, which is 62%. Freaking normally, that'll do you. Anyway, moving right along. Let me take another freaking hit on this pipe here while we talk about it. Freaking drop it in the comments. Let us know how you moisturize, because there's a lot of homemade remedies. There's a lot of freaking people. I've seen people use potatoes to remoisturize their weed. And don't get me wrong, there is some science to it, but it's more bro science than freaking, this is what I know science. So it's up to you. But we want to be a bastion of stuff that you can do over and over again. And that's one of the reasons why we try to freaking back up all the information and the knowledge we have and that we're putting out with science. So it's not what I say. It's not what you say. It's what science says. Funny I should say that, because science is in the news nowadays. Where are you at, people, with your vaccines or without your vaccines? That's probably a topic we don't have enough time to hit that up tonight. But anyway. And also shout out to all the people that are watching us on Twitch and YouTube. Freaking, if you're watching us on YouTube, please do us a favor. Take the time to like and subscribe. Down at the bottom, make sure you click the bell for notifications, of course. And if you're watching us on Twitch, make sure that you follow us so you can find more of our live broadcasts. We have one every Thursday. We do game some every now and then. If you go to our channel, you can check out some of our clips. The next thing I want to talk about is temperature. Temperature. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because, what up? Shout out to frickin' Tanya, what up? One of the main things is temperature. The ideal temperature is between 60 and 75 degrees. Let me explain. That's the temperature where you're in that range, your weed won't sweat off excess moisture, and it won't it's not too cold to make the moisture in your plants freaking harmful. When you change the temperature, when the temperature gets hot and cold, your weed breathes. It exhales moisture and it inhales freaking oxygen. So when you put your weed, let's say I put it in a top shelf. I put my attic's dark, right? Let's say I put my weed up in the attic. It's in an airtight container. It's in a glass jar. It's dark up there. The problem is the temperature's way out of range. I don't know where you're at, but sometimes my attic can range from 60 degrees when it's cool at night all the way up to upper 90s. And that's not good for your weed. Those steady temperature changes up and down, that's absolutely not good for your weed. Because what it does is the high temperatures make it sweat out moisture. The low temperatures make it start absorbing air. And when you start squeezing moisture out of your weed, what ends up happening is you have a perfect environment for mold to grow. I've lost full 112 jars like this of freaking weed simply because the place where I stored it was getting hot and cold. If you've got a low cupboard that's dark that you don't freaking open all the time, that's totally great. That's a great place to store weed. If you've got a closet, I don't recommend putting things on the top shelf only because heat rises and you want to keep a steady temperature. I don't recommend doing that. But yeah, it's storing weed is not hard. A lot of people do one of the things that we've talked about, but they don't do all of the things. And the togetherness, the entourage effect, is what makes when you hit all the points. That's what gives you the best weed storage. And the very last one that we're going to talk about tonight is material, your storage medium. We've been talking about this off and on. Me personally, no plastic. And when I say plastic, I mean Ziploc bags are for transportation only. If I'm carrying weed from one place to another, I might put it in a Ziploc bag. But your weed shouldn't stay in a Ziploc bag for more than 2 hours. That whole time it's freaking staying in that Ziploc bag. First off, the static electricity from the Ziploc bag is pulling the trichomes off of your weed and it's sticking to the inside of your bag. That's why when you put weed in a Ziploc bag, a lot of times the sides stick together because of static electricity. But that static electricity also pulls the trichomes off. Just saying. No humidors. No cigar humidors with exposed wood. Only because humidors with exposed wood have absorbed or will absorb some moisture. They'll also absorb some of that smell. If you ever store tobacco in that humidor, and most humidors are tested where they store tobacco in them, if you've ever tested that humidor, that tobacco smell is in the exposed wood on the inside of that humidor. Normally they use hickory or some type of tightly grained wood. But when you put your weed in there, it's going to suck that freaking tobacco smell into your weed. It's kind of weird because I thought I was doing the right thing. I freaking got this humidor, got it for a great price. I think it was like $20. Freaking, yeah, perfect place to store my weed. But because it was a used humidor, they had stored freaking countless cigars in there. When I put my weed in there, and I did something dumb. I figured because it was in a humidor, I'd store it in an open container, and it literally sucked a lot of that tobacco smell and taste out of the exposed wood and into my weed. Don't get me wrong, the weed was still awesome. It was. But it was like I was smoking fine cigars. I was getting higher than hell, but it was like I was smoking fine cigars instead of actually smoking weed. So, one of my favorite parts about weed, the flavors, the terpenes, I didn't even get to experience. I know, what a crock of shit. But anyway, only in one of the things I like to say is if you go with glass, your weed will last. And that's why most of the containers that I store my weed in are glass. It's one of the proven ways that it doesn't have static electricity, it's not porous, and if I sit on it, it's gonna take some pressure for it to break. But yeah. Yeah, what up? You back? Okay. Something's going on with my I don't know, something's going on with my connection here, I think. I'm not sure if it's the FBI or the CIA. They might be honing in on my freaking my little my broadcast area here, but nonetheless, I thank you guys once again. I thank you guys for stopping by. I thank you guys for watching our podcast. We want to send much love out to Roachel T. Hope she gets better. And this has been a small podcast about 5 of the things that I use to make sure that my weed will last the longest. I hope you have a great harvest, and I hope the weed you smoke at the end of your harvest, you'll be able to smoke 1 year later and have the same quality. Thank you. This has been your boy Slizwaq from Go Here Smoke This, and as always, you should grow.